This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Where do the Browns stand when it comes to the rest of the AFC, and how much better do the Browns have to be able to compete with the rest of the AFC? Look, it's no mystery. I don't think the Cleveland Browns are playing their best football right now. I don't think the game against Jacksonville is a good representation of what this team should be at their finest. At best, you could describe the Browns' offense as a work in progress. Now, that doesn't mean that we got to be doom and gloom for the rest of the season, but that means that we do have to be accurate about where this team is right now. The offense looks like a work in progress. This team, you would hope, is not playing anywhere close to their best football, either offensively or defensively. And I think there's a lot of room for growth here for the Cleveland Browns. The good news is that ultimately your season is not decided a success based on the strength of how you open the season. It's something I talked about before the season started, which is a fast start to the season is easily forgotten. We forget fast starts all the time. They're not very memorable, is a fast start to the season. But how you finish is forever, because how you finish the season is how that season will be remembered forever. When we talk about the Browns' 2020 season, we talk about how that season finished, right? The playoff run, the highs and lows of it. We remember that. We don't really remember how 2020 started. Started a little shaky. We don't remember that. Doesn't matter. 2021, we don't remember that the Browns actually started off pretty hot in 2021. Cooled off significantly by the end of the year. 2022, similar thing. How you start, not even close to as important as how you finish. And that's how the Browns will be judged. But let's look at some of the teams around the AFC and see if we feel like there's an opportunity for the Browns to finish strong and where they're going to take it. Buffalo, we'll start with the AFC East. Buffalo, to me, looks like the same version of the team that they've been. They might be a little bit different, but ultimately Buffalo's issues aren't their ability to win in the regular season. Buffalo's issues are their ability to win in a variety of enough ways to be able to win multiple games in the postseason. It's been their big heel. I don't see that changing. Same is true for the Miami Dolphins. So if we're looking at contenders out the AFC East, I think by default you have to say Buffalo is the contender coming out the AFC East because they're the team you take most seriously out that division. While the Patriots are an intriguing team playing good football right now, you just don't think they have the depth on that roster to withstand the grind of the 17-game NFL season. The New York Jets are also interesting because Aaron Rodgers is playing better football than I think we anticipated, or at least I anticipated him playing at his age. The question is, with an offense that is centered around Aaron Rodgers and it's having as high as a usage rate on Aaron Rodgers as it does, right? They haven't really been running the ball as well as they'd hope. They don't have a lot of weapons in the pass game. The defense is still very strong. A lot of that team is built around what Aaron Rodgers can do. And the question is, hey, at his age, is he going to be able to stay healthy for a whole year coming off an Achilles injury? And two, what is he going to look like even if he does stay healthy towards the end of the year? Like, what's that fatigue going to look like for somebody at his age playing this many games with this high of a usage? I know people will bring up Tom Brady, but one, Tom Brady is the outlier of outliers, so it's not really fair to ever bring up Tom Brady. But even if we do bring up Tom Brady, it is worth noting that Tom Brady had a lot of support on that Tampa Bay team when it came to the passing offense that's just simply not there for Aaron Rodgers, right? You can look at those wide receivers Tom Brady had towards the end in Tampa Bay. It's not the same story as for Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets. That's why I have a hard time saying that they're going to be a serious contender at the end of the day. And the Miami Dolphins, they got a lot of issues right now, right? Tua is going to be on IR for a concussion, which is extremely concerning because once you start going on on IR for a concussion. You're talking about long concussion symptoms. I mean, he could be out for a very, very long time. He could be back by the time those 4 weeks are up. You really don't know once a concussion gets that bad, and once somebody's history with concussions gets that bad, it becomes a serious concern. So that's why the Dolphins really aren't really high on my radar. The AFC West, I think, is interesting. Obviously, the Kansas City Chiefs are contenders. They're the back-to-back champions. They are the reigning champions. They have Pat Mahomes. They are serious, right? There's no doubt about that in a lot of people's mind. The question about the Kansas City Chiefs is, can they do what no team has ever done before in three-peat? And you look at the teams that have had the opportunity to three-peat and have not done it. And then you look at Kansas City and you realize how much longer the season has gotten for NFL teams now to three-peat. And you just wonder if it's even possible for Kansas City to three-peat. Like, if there's a year to get Kansas City in the playoffs, it's got to be this year, because if you look at all the odds, it's just not very likely that they're going to be able to three-peat. One, this team's getting much older. Travis Kelce is much older. Now, he's not playing well to start the season. I expect that to change. He's going to have to kind of be really mindful of when he turns it on and off this season at, 34, 35 years of age. So it's not like he could just play hard every single week like he used to when he was young. He's going to have to pick and choose. And I think he'll come on strong at the end of the year. Pat Mahomes is off to a shakier start than usual for the start of the season, too. 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, a low in passing yards, a low in QBR. Like, this has been his worst start to a season ever. He'll probably look like Pat Mahomes at some point of the season, but this doesn't feel like a dominant Chiefs team. Now, to be fair, the last two Chiefs teams that have won in the Super Bowl did not feel like dominant Chiefs teams. But this one, more so than the others, has me questioning if they're going to be able to do what's never been done before, which is three-peat in the Super Bowl era. It's hard to do. You play more regular season games than ever. You play more playoff games than ever, especially if you don't get the 1 seed. That's the big question. Like, can they go through that grind again? Are they going to be able to live through that attrition? Are they going to have the injury luck go in their way? A lot of teams have a lot of things go wrong on their quest for a three-peat. It's probably not going to be much different for Kansas City. They're going to be able to defend their crown more than likely in the playoffs. But the question is, can they hold up? And that kind of dims their obvious contender status. Like, they're obviously going to be contenders, but they do have that three-peat thing looming over them, which is very, very difficult to achieve. It's hard to get to a Super Bowl 3 times in a row. Now, it's been done before, but it's just really hard what they're trying to do. Now, the Chargers are a team that I find fascinating because they are basically taking the run the ball meta to the extreme. And I think there's a chance that, much like how you have these teams every once in a while that take advantage of a change, or they're best suited to take advantage of a change in how the NFL works. They zig when the rest of the NFL is zagging, and they kind of benefit from that. I think that's the kind of team that the Chargers are going to be in the regular season. I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking about the Chargers winning the division this year, because they're doing a lot of things well that match up with what the NFL projects to be weak at doing right now, running the football. Now, again, how long are they going to be able to run J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards out there? Both of these players have extensive injury histories, and right now they're running them at an incredible clip. They gave last week Gus Edwards 16 carries. They gave J.K. Dobbins 15 carries. They're only throwing the ball 20 times a game, and they don't really have many wide receivers. I know we're getting some things from Quentin Johnson out there in L.A., but I don't expect that to be something that sticks for a long time. I think the Chargers are going to be a really good regular season team. I do think their flaws are going to show up in the postseason. They are a team that you start to pick apart when it comes to the postseason. But I wouldn't be surprised if they surprise people obviously not me, but other people, and win the division this year. The Raiders, this is a team that they're hoping to get a surprise playoff run, obviously not like serious contenders. The Broncos, they don't look good. Their defense looks better than what their offense gives them, but their offense, it stinks. They're starting Bo Nix. It's not pretty out there. The Texans are the team that everybody's talking about coming out the AFC South. I have questions. I don't think they've looked as strong in these first 2 weeks as you would have expected the Texans to look like. I think there's a lot of expectations on a super young core, right? We're talking about a second-year head coach that everybody likes, but still a second-year head coach, still a second-year quarterback, and still a second-year defensive leader in Will Anderson. And I just worry about what the pressure of being a win-now team and having some veterans on the roster that aren't really like Houston Texans veterans. These are guys who came from other teams. What that pressure could do to such a young leadership core if things get a little bit shaky down the road. The good news for the Texans is that their division is not very good. The Titans, they kind of stink. The Jaguars, very talented. Should be better than what they are. But they smell like a team that needs to fire their coach. The Colts, a team with a good coach, a team with a promising quarterback, a team with a lot of problems. They'll be better than what their 0-2 record right now suggests. I think they'll be around 500, and I think they'll challenge for second place. Maybe if the Texans slip up a little bit, they might have a chance to win first place. Jacksonville should get, again, about 8 to 9 wins this year. Like, even though they have all of these issues, they should be better than that because of the talent on Jacksonville's roster. But the Texans are clearly the best team in that division, and I just wonder if they'll live up to all of that pressure that they're getting right now. Now, the AFC North, I've talked about this in my AFC North is Weird video, is at an interesting place because the Ravens were supposed to be the big contender coming out this division, and of all the teams in the first 2 weeks of the season in the AFC North that have given you concerns, it's the Baltimore Ravens whose concerns you're probably going to take the most seriously. The reason you're concerned about the Ravens is it looks like that offensive line is really an issue for this team. Like, I understand they might have some decent pass block win rate numbers, but when you look at them work in conjunction, they struggle. They have weak points that you can just point at and blast at and get through. Lamar Jackson is running for his life. When he does run for his life, his options are limited because his wide receivers and tight ends just aren't as talented as they used to be. And then defensively, I mean, this hasn't been spoken about a lot because we've been so focused on how bad the Baltimore's offensive line has looked. But the Ravens are also in the top 5 in the NFL in points allowed this season, and they're supposed to have one of the better defenses in the NFL. And look, I thought they played well versus Kansas City, but the performance at the end of the game there for the Ravens defense, albeit, some of it was penalty assisted. And I know that in one drive, the Raiders did get good field position. Still, though, you expect Baltimore to be able to maintain a 2-score lead no matter what happens because of how good that defense is. I think about it like this. If the Browns were up 2 scores and blew it, I would be furious at the defense because the Browns are supposed to have one of the best defenses in the NFL, no matter what the context of that is. And I believe Baltimore believes themselves to have a better defense than Cleveland, if not on the same caliber at the very least. And that can't be an acceptable thing for them either. They have a superstar in air quotes in Roquan Smith, who I haven't seen his entire run as a Raven ever looked like a superstar. There are times where I watch JOK and he looks like a superstar at the linebacker position. There are times where I watch Fred Warner, not even times, almost every time I watch Fred Warner, and he looks like a superstar at the position. Really rack your brain and tell me, what game has Roquan Smith looked like the face of the Ravens defense? I know we're used to commentary saying he's really good because he is a pretty good player. But my question is he elite? I don't know if Roquan Smith's elite. And that's the question about the Ravens defense. They lost some pieces around the edges. And it feels like that defense went from elite to pretty good. And that's kind of where I think they're stuck at. And if that offense is going to struggle with the offensive line play and the defense is taking a step back, then who knows where the Baltimore Ravens are going to land this year? Probably somewhere in the playoffs, but it feels like there's some real issues there. Cincinnati is 0-2 as well. And I think Cincinnati's just looking like a 10-win team this year, right? Like, I thought that they would get 11 this year. They're looking like a 10-win team this year. I think they're still going to get double digits. They're still going to make the playoffs, but they're looking like a 10-win team. We talk about the Browns all day here. Pittsburgh is actually 2-0. So what do I think about Pittsburgh? I've said this before, but if you haven't heard it, here's my analogy for Pittsburgh. How many of y'all remember Sierra Mist? Now, Sierra Mist used to be the competitor to Sprite, right? And Sierra Mist is all right. It's not bad. It's a little sweeter than Sprite. But since it's not Sprite, Pepsi had a hard time selling Sierra Mist, right? It's kind of just seen as the off-brand, like, okay, I'm at Burger King. They don't got Coke products. I'll drink Sierra Mist, I guess, right? That's what Sierra Mist has always been. Well, Sierra Mist decided to rebrand. And they got new can, new colors, new ad campaign, and now Sierra Mist is now known as Starry. It's a new can. A lot of hype. You know, I fell for that hype too. I went, scoured all of the grocery stores that I could go to get me a Starry because I wanted to see if this Starry, this new lemon lime drink, was pretty good. I've heard things about it, right? Get me a Starry, pop that thing open, drink it. I'm like, oh, this is just Sierra Mist. This is the exact same thing that was Sierra Mist. And then I look it up, Starry, who owns it? PepsiCo. Oh, this is just the Sierra Mist replacement. That is what the Pittsburgh Steelers offense looks like to me. As much as we talked about the Steelers offense changing and getting a new offensive coordinator and all of this, when you watch the Pittsburgh Steelers offense, it's a little different. It might be better coordinated. I think it is better coordinated, right? And I think Starry has a better can than Sierra Mist and a better logo. But when you really look at the nuts and bolts of the Steelers offense, it's the same damn thing that it was last year. The Steelers are winning the same exact way that they won games last year. Now, they beat the Atlanta Falcons, who aren't a terrible team, and they beat the Broncos, who are a bad team. I wouldn't have been surprised about the Steelers beating either of these teams on AFC North. I actually predicted the Steelers to win both of these games. So them being 2-0 doesn't really surprise me. I think during any point of the season, I would have picked Pittsburgh to beat Atlanta. I would have picked Pittsburgh to beat Denver. I don't really care that it's the first two games of the season that happens. They'll be the same team they were last year if they play Justin Fields. They'll win 9 to 10 games. They might make the playoffs. They'll be a solid squad. The question with Pittsburgh is, do they avoid the temptation to put in Russell Wilson? Because I do think the only way that this goes south for Pittsburgh and they don't make the playoffs and they go under 500 is if they play Russell Wilson for the rest of the year, because I think you just lose so much of what that offense can produce, and what that offense can produce is so little at this point that you're going to go underwater from what your defense can perform. But as of right now, I look at Pittsburgh and I say, hey, their defense looks better. Their offense looks slightly better. Like, it is the iPhone 14 to iPhone 15 upgrade. Like, there's some slight improvements here, but ultimately it's the same damn phone. That's really where Pittsburgh's at in my eyes. Still a good team, but still the same team that they were. That's kind of my view of the AFC. If I had to rank where the Browns were in the AFC, not the NFL, but the AFC, I would probably have them somewhere between 8th or 9th best team right now as far as how they're playing, because I don't think the Browns are even close to playing their best football at this point. But that's my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.